In this next series of videos, we're going to talk about some more GUI related topics, including images. We'll introduce some more components, namely checkboxes and radio buttons. We'll talk about text areas, and then we'll finish up talking about drawing. So far we've talked mainly about adding existing components into programs. We'll also talk about how you can add your own drawings into programs. But let's start out with talking about images. So in order to include images in your program, you use the image icon class. So to do that, you create an image icon object. So for example, if you had a picture file in the file called picture.jpg and you store that in a string called file name, you then can create an image icon object like this by invoking the image icon constructor and sending the file name in as a parameter. You can then set the icon of a label to hold or display that image icon. So you can create a label from scratch with that icon, or if you already have an existing label, you can set the icon to be that image. Okay. Now, one little note that in Eclipse, your image files go above the source folder. So they basically go in the same folder that contains the source and the bin folders. So for example, here's my Eclipse workspace. Here I've got my different project folders. If I go into week 4 lecture files, here I've got my bin folder, my source folder, and there I've got 2 image files. So in Eclipse, that's where the image files go. They go in the same folder as source and bin, so one level up from the source files. Okay. Now in other development environments, there might be a different placement of the image files depending on what you use. You'll have to kind of play with that a little bit, or you can definitely Google and just, put in the name of your IDE and find out where the image files belong. One more note here is to resize. If you want to do any changing of sizing of your images, I recommend you do that outside of Java using image software. Java is not great with kind of forcing certain images or restructuring the size of an image file. It's best off to get the image, the size, and the proportions you want outside of Java, and then just bring that image file in. So again, we use labels to display images. So if, for example, we had a label that contained an image, we can also have it then include the text by invoking setText, or we can go the other way around as well. Now there are some different options for orienting the text to the images. So here's an example of an image. And these are all the different placements that the text could go in relation to that image. So this whole thing would be an example of a label with one image and then one piece of text that's in one of these positions. So horizontally, it can be left, center, right. Vertically, it can be top, center, bottom. Okay. And you set that positioning by invoking either the set horizontal text position or set vertical text position methods of the JLabel class. And both of those methods take an integer parameter, and the integer parameter you send is one of the swing constants. So swing constants dot left, right, center, or top, bottom, center. So it's easiest to see this, as with most of the GUI concepts we're describing here, if we just look at an example. So we're going to create a GUI that just displays a picture. We'll then add the label, and then we'll change the orientation of that label. So I'm going to start with a new class. I'll call it my picture demo. And just like I've done up until now, I'm going to start by copying in that GUI template code. And I'm going to pause the video a moment so I can clean up the compiler errors. Okay, so I've taken out all of the compiler errors, put in the name of my class, and here I have my empty window with a white background called picture demo. So what I want to do is I want to add a picture to my display. Okay, so what I can do for that is I'm going to have a label. So a label contains an image, so I'll have a JLabel. I'll call it my picture label. Okay, and then I also need an image icon object. So I'm going to call it, I'm going to have this be a picture of one of my dogs. I'm going to say private image icon dog image. Okay, so there's my instance data variables. So now inside my constructor, I can go ahead and create my image icon. Oops. So I've declared it already. I've got my image icon called dog image. So I'll say dog image gets a new image icon, and the name of my file is dog.jpg. A little note, you have to make sure that your capitalization is right. Some images will be JPEG, some will be capital JPG, right? So make sure that your capitalization on the file extension is exactly right. This is dog image. Okay. So now I can create my image label just by sending in the dog image as a parameter. Oops, what did I call it? Picture label. Okay, and then of course I have to add it to my panel. So this just creates a Java variable, but doesn't actually display anything. So I take my main panel and I add my picture label. Okay, so let's take a look and run this. And there we go. That's my dog Tessie. There she is. Okay, so pretty easy to include images in your programs. You just again create that image icon object, and then you create a label that uses that image icon. Now, if we also want to add some text to that label, we can, after we created the label object, we can say picture label dot set text, and I'll put her name under the picture. Well, actually the default is that I put her name next to the picture. So this is a single label that contains both an image and text. And the default is that that text is on the center right. So if I look at this little picture here in the slides, again, these are all of the possible orientations. This one here is the default. Right positioning horizontally and center positioning vertically. So if I wanted to change that to this, if I want her name to be below the picture, then I need to use those methods of set horizontal text position and set vertical text position. So I'll say picture label dot set horizontal text position swing constants dot center. And picture label dot set vertical text position swing constants dot bottom. And now when I run it, the text is on the bottom and center of the image. So again, pretty easy to create that image, to add it to a label, also have the label include some text, and then situate that text in the correct position of wherever you want it in terms of its orientation with the picture.